And so the purpose of this particular training really is for appraisers to learn the basic functions of the Performance Matters system in regard to completing appraisal activities and how to coach appraisees through the goal setting process. When I say coach appraisees through the goal setting process, you as an appraiser also have to complete a goal, beginning of the year goal. We talk about that in other resources that's on Appraisal Hub to make sure that you complete those goals. So I have to complete a goal, you have to complete a goal, we all have to complete goals, right? And so, but there's resources available to help us through that process. So it's not something that you have to necessarily do in isolation. So we're going to go through Performance Matters. We're going to talk about the activities that's required, and then also, again, how to coach your appraisees through the goal setting process. Throughout the school year, we will have different trainings available to department appraisers. So I do recognize in this particular meeting, I have campus-based administrators as well. And so I do want to provide you all with information that is relevant for department appraisers as well as campus-based appraisers. And then again, those resources that you need to coach your appraisees through, okay? So if you are, this is just a reminder, if you are new employees, if you have new employees that you know, they just started maybe at the end of last year, maybe sometime in the summer, whatever the case is, or they just started this week. If you have new employees, they must complete the asynchronized employee appraisal. It is located in the Google Classroom. I included the ID number. We do send out an invite to our new employees to complete this training. We also send it out to the new appraisers, right? But if we don't necessarily get that information, or maybe there's a lag in how when the information is disseminated, you do want to go ahead and maybe take a screenshot of this particular slide, or just write down the class ID numbers for both new employees. So if you're an appraiser, you have new employees, you want to give them that class ID number. That's the UXRYBC2 for new employees. These are individuals that do not appraise other individuals. For new appraisers, you must also complete the asynchronous appraisal on that's located in the Google Classroom. And your class ID number is ULQRHWR. Okay. And so if you need assistance with going to the Google Classroom, I'm going to take you to that classroom just so you can kind of see how to log in, how to get there, that type of thing. And then you can join the classroom. It's about a 16-minute presentation. And so you can listen to it, you can just review the slides, and then you have to complete an acknowledgement that you did complete that training before you meet with your appraisees. Okay. There's also a refresher goal setting training. It's available in the Appraisal Hub. I will also show you exactly where that is located. I do also want to remind you that for non-exempt or hourly employees, they cannot or should not work on any activities related to the appraisal process or setting their goals or creating their goals outside of their normal work hours. Okay. Are there any questions about the Google Classroom, how to get there, the ID number, how to join before I move on? Are we good?
I do have one question.
Yes, ma'am.
So for the new employees, do they get an email or notification of any kind that they should complete that training or go to that Google Classroom?
They should. And the reason why I say they should, I don't know, we've been having quite a bit of problems with Frontline, right? It's almost like every other day we're getting some updates that something is being updated. So just in case we miss someone, not intentionally, if we miss someone, if you can please pass along that information. We are going through the Google Classroom to see who actually completed the training, and then we're cross-referencing that information with our new employees list. So we are going through that process, but if you can also disseminate that information, that would be great.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Any other questions? We're good? Okay. So at this time, I'm going to go to Performance Matters. So I'm gonna stop sharing my computer screen related to the presentation. And oops, I went right back to it. That's okay. I'm now on our, well, there's different things popping up. I'm not sure why. So let me go to, okay. I'm on our district homepage. Can you guys see that?
No, ma'am.
Okay. I saw several things pop up for whatever reason. So let's try that launch again. Can you guys see the homepage yet or no?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so this is our employee portal. So I was at the homepage here. When you go to the homepage, then you go to the employee portal. When you go to the employee portal, this is really how we get to just pretty much anything that we need to get to that's related to SAISD specifically. That only employees can log into this portion of the employee portal or from the website. When you go to the employee portal, you look to the left and you'll see something called Quick Links. And it's in alphabetical order. When you go to the Quick Links, you go to Performance Matters. And so some of you guys are experts on Performance Matters. You know how to navigate it, no issues, no problems. And then some of you never went to Performance Matters. You had no idea that it existed. And so I'm going to be very detailed as far as the steps on how to get there. So for those of you that are experts, please bear with me. Are we good so far with how to get to Performance Matters? And if you guys can give me a thumbs up, but again, if you have questions, I will pause again. So when you get to Performance Matters, this dashboard it's really your information. My evaluations that's related to you, okay? For your appraisers, if you are an appraiser, which you should be, because that's why you're attending this particular training, your appraisees, you would go to your staff evaluations. When you click under staff evaluations, you will have a list of all of your staff that you appraise, okay? And so I'm going to go back to my evaluation, which is myself. And I'm going to use my evaluation to kind of help you navigate your own appraisal, and then also how to walk your appraisees through the process of completing their goal and completing those activities that's required at the beginning of the year. So I went back to my evaluations, but again, if I want to go to my staff, I just click on my staff evaluations and it should have a running list of all of your appraisees. If you're missing someone, please email me. That means we need to get that individual aligned. Performance Matters is a very intuitive type of system. It's really easy to use. However, like a lot of our different programs that we use, whether it's Performance Matters or Frontline, we always see some discrepancies, right? And one of the things that we've noticed is with Performance Matters, it will automatically align most employees to their appraiser. So I'm aligned to Tori Austin. She's my appraiser. When I was at the campus level, I had 42 employees that I had to appraise, and they were all automatically aligned, or at least I thought they were. Sometimes some people are not aligned automatically, and we have to go in manually to upload or align that individual. And really with every single department in SAISD, we have to manually go in and align those individuals to their appraisees. Campus-based is typically automatic, but departments, we have to go in and manually align. So if we miss someone, just send us an email. And when I say we, myself, Tori Austin, Billy Hembry, Leticia Espinosa, and I'll give you those email addresses at the end of this presentation. Let us know if someone is not showing up under your staff, okay? So for the appraisal activities that's due at the beginning of the year, it's so critical that you recognize and know those deadlines. For the beginning of the year activities, the goal setting is due. Beginning of the year goal setting for department employees and some campus-based employees. If you're on a 210 to 245 day contract, 210 to 245, your beginning of the year goal is due by August 25th. That's in about a week or so, right? And so you want to make sure that you complete this beginning of the year activity. When I click on my beginning of the year activity, this is what it looks like. And I'm showing you mine, and then I'll show you how I created mine. Kind of moving from a campus-based to a department-based is a lot different. Similar format in some ways, but I have to be honest, it's a lot easier, so I do appreciate it. And I'll show you the resources that I use to create my own goal. And in using the resources that's available in Appraisal Hub, it does make the process a little bit easier. Because sometimes we just don't have the words, or we look at the format and the format doesn't quite make a lot of sense. Whatever the block may be in creating a goal, I would have to say that the Office of Continuous Improvement, which is a department that I work in, new there, does an excellent job, and they have for years, with giving us resources to help us be successful in this process. So the way the goal look when you open up your own as well as your appraisees, it's going to look something like this. You have to type out a goal. You're going to indicate what your goal is, and it should be in the SMART format. That is the format that the district has chosen, and those are the samples that we have available on our Appraisal Hub to assist in that process. Okay. The campus department district goal, what I noticed in looking at hundreds and hundreds of goals throughout all of our departments, whether it's in transportation or child nutritional services, custodial staff, human capital management, which is a department that I work in, I noticed that a lot of people leave this blank or they just put a little sentence. What I suggest is that you help yourself as well as your appraisees with this part. You really want to look at your department mission statement. You want to look at your department vision, your department goals, and then create a goal that's aligned to that. That's what we're supposed to do. And what I did is just put it right in front of me because, again, this one is new for me. I knew what the campus mission was. I knew what my goals were that was set by the district, but I had to go and just kind of remind myself. So I literally copied and paste that goal right here in this particular section. And then from that, I aligned what I wanted to do and created my goal. And this goal is kind of restated at the top where it says goal here. And then again, I just added some additional information to make sure that I'm aligned with the department, aligned with the district. Are there questions so far? And we're all good with how to get to this portion. We went to Performance Matters, and we went to beginning of the year goal, and we just clicked and we opened up those activities. And then for strategies and action, what are some things that I'm going to do to make sure that I achieve my goal? You just outline them. I do write sentences. When you create your goal, it's usually a sentence, right? But for strategies and actions, it could be bullet points. It doesn't have to be a complete sentence. And then my expected measurable outcomes, I'm hoping to increase something. By me doing what I have set out to do, I'm hoping to improve maybe some processes, procedures, or whatever the case is. Here I put percentages. I want to increase maybe the beginning of the year activities completion rate from, it was really less than 50% to 75%. That's my goal. Okay. And so if I do the things that I set out to do, this is what I'm hoping to accomplish. Now, the appraiser, this is one of the things I did notice. The appraiser, when you have as an appraiser, when you have your meeting with your appraisees, you have to put comments here. I don't have my meeting until today. So my appraiser, she's going to put her comments here. And when she put her comments here, then we can mark this activity complete. You do want to make sure that your appraisees, as well as yourself, Indicate the type of resources that you're going to need to accomplish your goals. For me, I still need quite a bit of training on performance matters, the back office stuff. I know how to do the things as an appraiser, but there's a lot of back office stuff that I really need training on. So that's what I'm going to need, that I believe that's going to help me be more successful. So this is what my goal looked like and what I completed. And like I said, I'm going to show you maybe some resources that you can use yourself, and then also some resources to coach your appraisees so that they can complete their beginning of the year goal activity. This, you see where it says required and there's an asterisk, you have to make sure that that is completed, and it should be turned green. There's a check mark that's going to pop up to let you know that it's completed. The other activity that is required at the beginning of the year, when you open up the beginning of the year appraisal activity, it shows 4 things. Only 2 of those things are required. The beginning of the year setting, which is what the employee does, or the appraisee completes that portion of it. They let you know that they completed that portion. You schedule your beginning of the year conference meeting. When you schedule that beginning of the year conference meeting, you also have to make sure that as the appraiser, that you complete all the little components in it. I can't open this one up and show you what that looks like because I'm not appraising myself, right? And so, but there is a mark activity complete. When you do that, once you meet with your appraisee, then you mark it complete and you'll have a green check mark. So you'll have a green check mark for the goal setting and then the beginning of the year conference. The beginning of the year appraisal standards domain part 1 of 2 and part 2 of 2. It's only required for late hires only. So a late hire would be anyone that was hired after March 1st of this year, 2023, but we always consider that to be last school year, right? So if they were hired after March 1st, they did not have or should not have had an end of the year appraisal. And you would be the one to complete parts 1 of 2 and 2 of 2. Okay. Well, what if you're new and the employee started March 1st? How do you appraise that individual when you may not have all the information that you need to properly appraise that individual? You can indicate that in the appraisal. However, I would also suggest that you conference with your particular manager, your supervisor, and see if they have information to help you complete this activity with ratings, okay? Because everyone is supposed to be appraised. And you don't have to do this immediately. This can be done like in October. It can be done in November, but you still have to complete an end of the year activity for that individual as well. Are there any questions about what's required for the beginning of the year for the departments? Anyone that's on a 210, 245 day calendar. That's due by August 25th.
Dr. Hamber, that beginning of year appraisal standard domains part 1 and part 2, we do that on our own and not with the new employee?
Okay, so this, when you, because it's an actual appraisal activity, you would do this yourself, and then you would meet with the appraisee and go over the ratings.
Got it. That makes a lot more sense. Okay, got it. Thank you.
Thank you for asking. Mm-hmm. Are there any other questions? I do want to talk about the other deadline. The other deadline is for employees that's on a 182 to 202 day contract. For those individuals, their beginning of the year activities is due on September 22nd. You as the appraisee must complete it or mark it complete by September 29th. And I'll show you where the appraisal calendar is as well. So if we're good on this activity, I do want to skim down to some conversations we'll have throughout the year. One of them will be mid-year appraisal. It is at your discretion. We'll talk about that October 26th if you would like to attend that meeting. I will record that meeting just like I'm recording this one, and it will be available just in case you're not able to attend that live. and you want to go back and review the information. The mid-appraisal activity, again, is October 26th. That meeting is on October 26th. It's at your discretion. It's not something you have to complete, but at that time, I will also give you some resources to maybe have some of those crucial conversations with employees that may not be on track to meeting their goals. And if that is the case, you probably do want to do a mid-year appraisal. And that mid-year appraisal will include some of the beginning of the year activities that you see above, like domains part 1 of 2 or part 2 of 2. So it includes some of those things.
Dr. Hamburg?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. It was my understanding I'm a new supervisor as of last year for our instructional specialists. And
Yes,
it's my understanding that for that role, the middle of the year
it's
is
required.
required. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And so the difference between what Ms. Copa is asking is this. Instruction, these are what I'm reviewing is for non-instructional employees. For instructional employees and for instructional specialists, instructional coaches, they do have a middle of the year, their MOI, and that is required. You'll know if it's not something that you have to do because it'll say stuff like, like the late hire only or at your the appraiser discretion. The other ones is going to have an asterisk and it's going to let you know that it is something that must be completed. Okay. The end of the year, I have 3 trainings that will be available. It's the QuickTips, and we'll talk about the requirements for the end of the year. What I did notice for end of the year for some of our departments, they did, some of them did the end of the year. Maybe they were missing some components, like they didn't check off on a goal attainment. But there's 4 activities that's required for end of the year. You have to complete the goal attainment. That's basically indicating, yes, they achieved their goal, or no, they did not. And then you're having that conference with them. You are doing the ratings on part 1 and part 2, and then you have your end of the year conference. As I indicated, we're going to have 3 training times that's available. I will record those as well to walk you through the end of the year activities. And then October, middle of the year activities, we'll talk about that. But our focus of today is going to be just the beginning of the year and goal setting. Are there any questions about performance matters and the activities that's required for beginning of the year?
No, ma'am.
We're good? Okay. These are the 3 components of the appraisal process that we have to make sure, which is something I've actually already went over. We already talked about the goal setting. These are required as outlined in DN local. That's one of our board policies. And this is something that must be completed every year for full-time employees, not temporary employees, not substitutes. We do not complete an appraisal for, temps, part-timers. We don't do part-time. And so for all full-time employees, this is what's required. We sort of hinted on domains 1 through 4, which is part 1 of part 2, and then part 2 is domain 5. But we'll review those 2 items sometime, like I said, in March. The appraisal format, again, focusing on goal setting. Every individual must complete 1 professional practice goal. I showed you guys my professional practice goal. It's just a sentence, okay? The format that we follow is the SMART format, and I'll review that here shortly. For goal settings, employees will know what is expected of them. Support the success of the school program and/or department and contribute to their annual appraisal process. This is not a one-sided process. So the employee, the appraisee, and the appraiser, it's a collaborative effort. And so the appraisee is expected to write a goal, and it is the expectation of the appraiser to know what that goal is and to support it throughout the entire school year.
Dr. Hamburg, I'm so sorry. Are we supposed to be seeing the slides at this time? We're still seeing your performance matters screen.
Gotcha. Thank you. I should have asked because I don't know. I guess when I click, I don't click to. Okay, so are we good? This is what I went through like 5 slides. Thank you, Dawn.
No, you're good now.
Okay, so I showed this slide, that's the components, and then I said that we're gonna focus on one professional practice goal and what employees will know, support, and contribute. Okay. And so the employee goal setting activities, employees will develop one professional practice goal. The professional practice goal should focus on professional practice growth and development, which are essential to meeting performance expectations for the individual, the campus, as well as the department and the entire organization itself. The PPG will be in the SMART format. That's the measurable, observable, attainable. An employee will finalize the PPG during the end of the year conference appraisal process. So what it's referring to there is you set the goal at the beginning of the year. If you have an employee that, which it states here, if once an employee is hired, when they're hired, and it could be in October, it could be in November, whenever they are hired, their start date, 6 weeks within that time frame, you got to complete that beginning of the year section in Performance Matters. Mr. Haskins, I see your hand up. You have a question?
Yes, thank you. I know you and I spoke about this, and we've been emailing a little bit back and forth, but I know that for employees that have been here for a while, the appraiser's rating of them on the standardized domains is something that only happens at the end of the year.
Correct.
And I am wondering if you have any advice or tips on communicate, because one of your previous slide talked about like employees know what's expected of them, which the goal is super helpful about at the beginning of the year, but not some of those other factors, right? And those hit some of the soft skills like communication or timeliness or there's a lot of stuff in those. And so I'm just wondering if there's any advice or tips that you have about sharing some of those expectations that are contained in the rubric so that the first time the employee hears them isn't at the end of the year when they maybe get a negative mark and didn't realize that was part of the expectation.
Absolutely. We're going to go to the appraisal hub and talk about, some of the conversations you can have at the beginning. What I do suggest and what I did as an appraiser at the campus level and with my non-instructional staff. So that was my administrative assistant, my data clerk, my counselor, my FACE specialist, all of these other individuals that did not hear maybe certain messages that I would have in staff meetings, PLCs, those type of other meetings. I would meet with them, but I would also go over their appraisal document. We do have copies of appraisal documents because it is difficult. You can actually start their appraisal in Performance Matters, which is what I used to do. I would start it at the beginning, and I'll show you what I mean by that here shortly. I would start it, and I would go over the appraisal components with the individuals, even at the beginning of the year. Because like you said, at the end of the year, I didn't know I was being appraised on this. Well, you know now, right? You'll know at the very beginning. So I can show you how to do that.
Perfect, thank you.
So we talked about the fact that our goals have to be written in SMART format. That just means that the goals need to be specific, measurable, attainable, results-oriented, relevant, and time-bound. One of the things that Mr. Haskin was talking about was kind of at the end of the year. That's when we're having these conversations about the ratings, and we're talking about whether or not they met their goal. This is just as a reminder that you will be required to complete the goal-setting process during the end of the year appraisal. And essentially what we're referring to is there's a part in the end of the year that's where you have to indicate whether or not they met their goal. If they didn't meet that goal, they should know well in advance because you've already had those conversations. And one of the reasons why I wanted to schedule that October meeting, and I may do more depending on departments and the needs of the departments. So you can have those crucial conversations with individuals, knowing how to really talk about whether or not they're on track to meeting their goals. Because we can meet with someone, if we haven't had that conversation, throughout the year, it is something that they should know. It should not be a surprise by the end of the year. So I did stop sharing my computer screen and we're gonna go to the appraisal hub. I went back to, or I'm on the, in the employee portal. Can you guys see the employee portal?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. At the top, I have the appraisal hub because I marked it as one of my favorites, right? Because I go there all the time, even as a campus administrator, that was my top because that was where I lived in order to support my staff. And so the appraisal hub is in SharePoint. So if it's not at the top for you, then you can go to your SharePoint. And so I am now in the appraisal hub and I'm on the main screen for the appraisal hub. And what I'm showing you guys is, let's just talk about the Office of Continuous Improvement. We are part of the arm of Human Capital Management, but our office is the Office of Continuous Improvement. I'm also showing the different staff members in our positions so that you know who you need to contact for support. Billy Hembry is the program manager for appraisals for campuses, and then I'm the appraisal managers for departments. Leticia Espinoza is the specialist for departments. And we are in the process of hopefully getting a specialist for campuses. I'm also showing you guys the appraisal calendar. So I'm going to click on that link and hopefully it's going to move along with me and the calendar should pop up.
Yep.
Do you guys see the calendar?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, perfect. So the calendar just provides the dates as far as when things are due. I would suggest that you put this in your Outlook. That's what I do. And I continue to do that. This is what kept me on track. And I always completed all of my activities on time because I just really live by the appraisal calendar. So as an appraiser, you really want to give yourself at least a week or so before it's actually items are due, whether it's the beginning of the year activities, end of the year activities, or if you really want to hone in on the middle of the year, you can do that as well. And you can put that into your Outlook calendar. I do want to point out that we now have 2 instructional calendars. Lamar and Bowden Academy is on a different calendar. They started early, so some of their activities is due at different times. I believe on their calendar, our department activities due dates are the same. However, it just makes it easier to, keep things a little separate. Make sure you select the non-applicable for Lamar Elementary and Bowden Academy. That's our regular calendar. Okay, so I'm going out of the calendar. I do want to point out a couple of other things before we get down to the professional folder. This other document is the employee goal, beginning of the year step-by-step, that will basically walk you as well as your appraisees through the goal setting process. It is literally a step-by-step process. We do have it both in English and Spanish. So if you have individuals that require language support, mainly Spanish, but if there's other languages, we can contact our FACE department. We do have a language individual that helped to link not just our community, but also our staff. If we do have an employee that require language support in Spanish, they can contact Leticia Espinoza. Again, I will provide her email address at the end of this presentation. It is so critical that we provide that support so that we can make sure that our employees, number one, feel supported. Number two, be able to walk through this process and have the information that they need and they best feel supported in a language that's required or needed. This is a refresher training that I had mentioned earlier. So if you are not a new appraiser and you don't need to go to the Google Classroom, but you feel like you do need a little bit of a refresher, this is the training that I referenced earlier. These other 2 documents are actual sample goals, and I'll open up a couple of those here in a second. The folder that I do, are folders that I do want to point out to you guys is the professional, classified, and clerical, because you may be an appraiser that where your appraisee fall in any one of these categories. So professional appraisers, here's some of the same things that we saw on that first homepage, but then also underneath this, we do have our rubrics. This is what Mr. Haskins was talking about. And so with the rubric, I will open up, let's see, Mr. Haskins, I think I sent you the support one. This is for yourself. You were asking about the employees. And so I'll show you a few that we have. This is not all inclusive. So I will show you what you can do in order to kind of go through the rubric with your appraisees. So right now I'm showing a rubric. Are you guys able to see that rubric?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so this rubric, the first part is domains 1, 2, 3, and 4. So domain 1 is going to be performance area that include the school and community. All of us, for the most part, have domains 1, 2, 3, and 4. That's very similar. Okay. When we get to the specialized one, let me see if I can. I think I'm gonna download this one. Okay, I'm gonna go to, that was just for domains 1, 2, 3, and 4, but there's another one. We'll go back out. Okay, this one is the specialized. This one is going to be for domain 5. That's part 2 of 2. And this is the other rubric. So the first one, domains 1, 2, 3, 4, that's compliance related. It's either yes, no, or not applicable. If, as an appraiser, if you rate someone no for domains 1, 2, 3, and 4 on any one of those areas, you have to give an explanation, whether it's right underneath where it says evidence, or you're going to indicate it in a conference, and that's for end of the year. I'll go more in detail, but I do want to show you, I'll go more in detail on that in March. But what Mr. Haskins was asking, is there a way we can kind of show or know what we're appraised on or appraisees are appraised on, so we can have those conversations at the beginning of the year? This is what this looks like for the majority of us. This is our domain 5. And so domain 5 is our specialized domain. And this is, we're either rated accomplished, proficient, developing, or improvement needed. If you are rating someone accomplished, developing, improvement needed, you have to have written evidence. It can be written in the evidence section, or you can type it out in the conference area. If you rate someone proficient or yes for the compliance area, you don't necessarily have to have evidence. It's good practice that you do, though. So Mr. Haskins, I don't think I can actually start this now that I think about it, but I will show you what you can do. It just won't show you all the way in detail because I don't have access to do that, not in my own. It has to be started by the appraiser. So when you log into Performance Matters and you go to the end of the year activities, you can hit start now. You don't have to wait until the end of the year. When you click on start, it's going to show the template. It's not showing on mine, but it should show the template that's aligned to your appraisee. When you start that template, their rubric will show up. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's a great idea to just, even though it's in the end of year section, we could just start it now and we could have it up. And then I'm thinking maybe if there was something we needed to work with someone on, or someone we wanted to praise them for, you know, we could say, hey, you know, this was a great project, and, you know, this is coming up at end of year. I'm going to be able to mark you proficient on this. It's awesome. Or, hey, this is going to need to be developing. Let's talk about this some more so that we don't have to mark you developing at the end of the year, etc.
Exactly. You can use it as an ongoing tool to grow your staff. But you can also, what I did, I would start those at the beginning of the year. And I would go over that rubric at the beginning of the year with my staff during that beginning of the year conference, or at least somewhere in between.
Yep.
So I would just go over the rubric. These are the expectations.
But
And
they
if you
can't
have-
see these, like, if we start it now,
Mhm.
and let's say I went in and I clicked someone proficient, like, they're not gonna see that.
They,
Like that, because we have to publish it and that only happens at the end of the year, right?
exactly, but you don't want to mark anything anyway, not yet. You don't want to do
Okay.
that until later.
I just
So
unmarked
I
it.
would start it, I would review it because I don't want any accidents, right?
Yep.
And so I would start it, review it with my staff. And because I checked in consistently, I was always able to kind of, gather that evidence. And whether it's going to push someone from maybe being developing to proficient or even from proficient to accomplished. And so you can use that just as a review with your staff. You really can. And then, kind of keep that information a little separate because again, you don't want them to go in there and you're rating and that's not what you want them to see, but you are having those verbal conversations. So they'll know where they stand or they should know, right?
Mhm.
But it is difficult because we don't have a sample rubric for everyone because we don't. Now I can help create them. And that's going to take a little bit of time, but yes, that's one of the things that you can do.
Thank you.
So let's go to the goal setting because that is an area where I think most people need help. I'm gonna show you what I did to create my goal being new to this particular position and new to the department. I used the mission statement from the website to help me. I also went to, well, let me see, I think I clicked on the wrong one. I apologize, but this one is also helpful. This one, you can look at the different categories and there's some samples that's provided. Oh, that's not showing. There we go. Can you guys see the appraisal goals? And then there's some samples based on departments like face specialists, food service cooks, food service managers, librarian. When you go down, these are some actual goals that can be used for those particular job positions.
Yes, we can see them.
Okay, perfect. The other one, and sometimes it's just a matter of language, right? Like you just need the language to put things together. And so the other one that we have, it's that step-by-step, it's the writing a SMART goal. And it takes you through the process of, it has the definition and it has the template. And then there's also some examples provided. So when you create a SMART goal and the S stands for specific, you got to ask the who, what, where, when, which, why type of questions. And it literally walks you through the process. Measurable, it gives you an example of what measurable means. Attainable, it provides that. Got to be realistic, and then it provides a template that you can, at least if you know, then you can walk your appraisee through that process. Then it gives areas to write, and then more examples. Okay. So I did use that. And then the last document, because again, I'm like, okay, I need some language here. I need something to really help me put my thinking in order. And so I used, oops, I'm gonna go to professional, back to professional. I used the goal samples. And it kind of goes through the same process. And then do you see where it says like budget sample goals, communication sample goals?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, so this is what I used to create my goal. Again, I was just looking for the language. I was looking for a sentence stem. And so when I created my goal, I'm like, okay, now this makes more sense because I didn't have to think on a campus level. I didn't have to think about the star, map, circle, and how to, manage all of that. I just really needed to say, this is what I see maybe as an issue or somewhere that I can kind of, improve our practices and processes in the Office of Continuous Improvement based on our mission statement. And I use some of the language from this particular sample to help me create my own goal. Are there any questions about this particular document?
Dr. Hanford, how did you get to this one again?
I'm gonna go back out. And this is one of the things, I know if you guys have been with SAISD for a year, or if you've been here for 5 years or 20 years, we are resource rich, right? We have tons of resources, and it's always like coming at us so many different ways. And so Appraisal Hub, when you go to the Appraisal Hub, you go to professional. When you go to professional, oops, sorry, I just clicked on a picture. When you go to professional, you can go to goal samples. And then we have the other goal samples, but this is additional samples under very specific categories, the categories that I showed. So this goal sample to me is more for the departments, department leaders. But when you create your own goal, I think it does make it a little bit easier for you to coach your staff, your employees through that process as well. Okay. The last two things I do want to show you, if you have an administrative assistant, or if you have your clerical staff and your classified staff. For classified, what I do like about classified is that we did have some really good samples of their rubric. Like the bus drivers, cafeteria cook, custodial grounds operation, that type of thing. So their rubrics are there. And for our clerical and paraprofessional, we have a few of the rubrics as well. Okay, so as I continue to update the Appraisal Hub for classified, professional, and clerical, I will work to pull some of those samples from the different positions, like technology. I did see theirs is a little bit different. And so I'll work to include those rubrics. So as I do, I will try to send those emails out to the department appraisers, but always just check back with the Appraisal Hub, because we will continue to update it to make it a little bit more easier and user-friendly, number one. And number two, to add some additional resources that's going to help you through the appraisal cycle and the appraisal process. Okay, are there any questions? I am back on the PowerPoint presentation. Can you guys see that?
No,
No,
ma'am.
it shows the Appraisal Hub.
Yeah.
Still in appraisal hub. Okay.
That's fine. I'm gonna tell them to place
Okay. So the PowerPoint presentation that I'm showing is just a reminder of the different things that we have going on throughout the year. We do have the October 26th. So if you can save that date, if you're able to attend, I would suggest that you do. That's when we're going to talk about middle of the year type of activities, and then those crucial conversations with employees that may not be on track to meeting their goals, or just some of those other areas like attendance, right? That's always, when you are an appraiser, that can typically be a concern when we have employees that don't come to work, or maybe not on time consistently. We see patterns. What do you do? How do you have those conversations? Who do you contact for assistance if you have to start documenting? Right. So we have employee relations that you would need to reach out to. And then our last few sessions will be in March, and that's going to be the end of the year process where we'll walk through those requirements. Just a reminder, the beginning of the year activity that's due is the beginning of the year where the employee, your appraisee, will create a goal. You will review that goal, approve that goal, provide comments, make sure that you offer levels of support so that they can achieve that goal. You do that at the beginning of the year. Mr. Haskin had brought up the rubric. I would suggest reviewing that rubric. That's what I did as an appraiser. I always review the rubric. I did start those end of the year activities so that I can have access to their rubric and that they know what the expectations are. You also have to mark complete that goal setting activity, and you have to mark the conference. So you have to indicate when you met. I don't believe you have to indicate the time, if I remember correctly, or maybe you do. I just honestly don't remember. And you got to get the check mark for both of those things, okay? If you have any questions, comments, or concern, feel free to reach out to myself at thanford1@SAISD or Leticia Espinoza at lespinoza1@SAISD. And you can certainly reach out to Tori Austin, taustin1@SAISD. And my phone number is also listed as well. And that's all the information I have for you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. If you have additional questions and you want me to hang out for a little bit,
Thank you.
I can do that. Hi, Ms. Holcomb.
When we get a copy of the recording you made, there were some things that you did. I was taking notes and I missed where to go, but if I can just watch
Absolutely.
the video, I can find it.
Yes, I didn't go to the Google Classroom. I think everybody know, I don't want to assume, I'm sorry. So let me do that now. I didn't go to the Google Classroom. So if you need help with getting to your Google Classroom, you just literally go to, let's see. I always call it the waffle, you know how on our drive where we go to our Google. Can you guys see the little waffle that I'm pointing to?
No, we're still seeing your presentation.
The presentation, okay. Even though I click to continue throughout, when I share, it doesn't do that. So let me go back out.
It has a mind of its own sometimes.
It does, and I haven't been able to figure it out, really. We've been doing Zoom for quite some time, right? Okay, so I am on my drive. That's the SAISD drive. When you go to the Google Apps, you just click on your classroom. And when you go in your classroom, you can join a class. You may see where you have to accept a class. Maybe other departments have sent you an invite to join their classroom. You may see this particular classroom already requesting to be accepted. So it's going to be the non-teacher appraisal training. That's the classroom you need to join in order as a new appraiser. You have to complete that training. It's, like I said, 16 minutes. And the question was about the recording. Yes, I will also send out the recording. I have your name and email address and I'll send it to you.
Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am. Are there any other questions? If you think of anything, feel free to email me. It is now 8:25. I do want to thank each and every one of you for your time. I appreciate you and I hope each and every one of you guys have a wonderful year.
Thank you.
And hopefully see you guys in October.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.